Hi everyone, welcome to Ricardo and Reddie. We are giving you some uplifting and inspiring stories in lockdown. Mark, how you going?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
You know
Sunny
what? I'm
day.
actually really tired because we went on a really long walk today around Redfern, Surrey Hills, Alexandria. And on our way, we discovered our very own dose of Pfizer. Now, hold on. I don't know if you can see. Okay. So it
I've got it.
says, yeah, none the Pfizer. Just so you know, no, it's not a vaccination, it's a drink. And it definitely doesn't give you any sort of protection against coronavirus, but it does get you out of this headspace before being. That's for sure. It's very strong. So, yeah, so we came across
Yeah,
this cool little bar.
yeah. It was, I think it's called Rebar, R-E-Bar. I'm not sure. It's in that new South Everleigh part of Sydney. That's kind of a new development. And we popped in and we thought, why not give it a go during the show?
Exactly. So it's actually quite nice. It's got fennel in it, um, lemon
It's got
myrtle,
burnt,
peach
Mark,
liqueur,
it's burnt fennel, not just fennel, it's burnt fennel.
and beeswax kettle one. I don't know if that's like some sort of trendy vodka or
Yeah.
beeswax. Yeah, I don't know what that is. But so we
But
did
that's it.
that, and it,
Yeah, that's the thing because you can only really walk to catch up. Because Mark and I are best mates, but we don't live with each other. We're not in each other's single bubble because we've got other friends as well. But the only way you can really catch up in Sydney at the moment properly is by going on these long walks. And I saw another mate today. And what I love about these long walks at the moment is that you're able, or what we're doing is discovering different parts of Sydney that we wouldn't necessarily know. So we went down to Darling Point, which is still within my 10-kilometre radius. So we're allowed to do it. And look at this beautiful view. It's a park called McKell Park in Darling Point. Never heard of it before. Thought it was fantastic.
wow, you really are stepping out of the bubble. I love how you have to stipulate that you are abiding by the rules. Ricardo has never broken a rule in his life, so
Yeah.
he's a poster child when it comes to the rules. I am abiding by the rules, but usually I don't love a rule. Anyway, and so we also did something else today. Did we do anything else
You
today?
visited a very important person.
Yes, sorry, I did. So I went and caught up with my one of my best friends, Lara Himes, who I work with, and my goddaughter Sage. I haven't seen Sage in a very long time because of restrictions, and so we went on an essential walk. God, I hate saying these words. And we went to Moore Park, and there was a really big surprise. She can now walk, so we decided to walk, and she also can play soccer, and she can also dance, and she's only just turned 1. So it's pretty interesting. Let's have a look at what she can do. Come on. Here's the ball. Ah, get the ball. Where's the ball? Huh?
Oh,
Yeah, she really likes the ball. You know, that was her
yeah.
gift from her mum for her first birthday, a ball. You know what? I think this is a lesson for parents. You can save so much money at that age because they don't know about like expensive belts or shoes or anything like that. So just give them a ball.
Yeah. And being a parent is a good segue into our first guest. Before we do that, though, don't forget you can interact with us on the show. If you have any questions for our guests, you can write them in the comments section of the video that you're watching on either my Facebook page, Mark's Facebook page, or the Ricardo and Reddie Facebook page. We prefer you to be watching the show on the Ricardo and Reddie page. And if you do like watching, give it a like, give us a heart, and more importantly, share this video right now with your friends so we can get these uplifting and inspiring stories out to more people.
Exactly. We do want to hear from you. We've got a long time to go. We should also say hi to anyone from Melbourne because I know you're now, I think, in your 6th lockdown. That is a lot of lockdown. So welcome if you're joining us from Melbourne. So we'll go to our first guest now. Let's talk to Mick Touma. G'day,
Hey
Mick.
guys,
How
how
you
you
going?
going? Good, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. So just quickly, Mick Touma contacted us on the Ricardo and Reddie Facebook page. We've never met him before, and he lives out in Western Sydney, and he has gone through the surrogacy process, which not a lot is known about, I think, here in Australia. We hear it sometimes in the news, but it is something that is obviously quite a long process. So we thought we'd talk to Mick about that. Mick, can you tell us, why did you want to become a father?
It's been a long journey for me, and I've always wanted to be a dad from the day dot. For me, when I was probably about 15, I've always dreamt of having a family, but obviously that stigma of, obviously, can I be a dad? Can I be a single dad? And what the situation is. So one day I woke up in the morning and I said, you know what, let's expand our family. So was really excited to do that. So that's probably one of the real reasons why, is because, again, a lot of people that live by themselves, also struggle with not having an additional person in their life, or you work so hard and that. So for me, it was just more, I wanted to have a family and expand on it. So
Mick, so let's talk about the options that were available to you, right? So you could either have adopted or have gone through surrogacy. So why did you go one way, not the other?
For me, it's probably a little bit selfish. With adoption or with foster parenting, you've got to give the child back at some point. Sometimes it's extremely difficult. And for me, it wasn't until one of my friends actually guided me through options of surrogacy. And when I looked at it, it was more about the legalities that, obviously wowed me to become a dad through surrogacy. And the fact that you're able to have that child, and that child grows up with you, and you essentially don't give that child back if the parent wants, that particular child back. And that's a traditional method with, foster parenting or adopting. That stigma in that sense of, I'm pretty selfish in that sense, I guess. Not wanting to give the child back. Be raising the child, etc. So, that's probably the real reason why I went through surrogacy.
You're talking to two other single guys as well, and we don't necessarily know much about the whole process, right? The surrogacy process, can you start from the beginning? How does it actually work?
It's the most confusing process to go through. I personally didn't even know what to do or where to go to. And as I mentioned, one of my friends actually that I work with mentioned an Australian company. So they said, just jump on their Facebook page and have a look at it. And it wasn't until probably about 3 months into researching, there was a company called Family Soup Surrogacy. So they talk about the process, and they invited me to go to one of their seminars, which they held in the city. In Sydney, and they do that across each state, and they explain to us about the process of surrogacy and what happens. So they talk about international, and that's how I had my son. I did my son through Mexico. They also talked about the way in Australia and how that operates. So I chose to go overseas, much cheaper option, to be honest. Very expensive, and the legal process here in Australia is so confusing. Each state has its own rules. New South Wales, at the time that we had our son, does not permit surrogacy in any shape, way, or form, but Victoria does, and WA. So I would have essentially had to lie and break the law and move to those states if I had to have a child in Australia.
But you did have to move to Mexico. What was that like, and how long were you there for? Different language. It must have been quite a unique experience.
It was the most isolating experience, because secondary language is not Spanish for me. And I was lucky enough, that my other half that came with me speaks Spanish, and it was an easier process to understand. I guess for me, the process of having a newborn child, not having any family around as well to support me. So we took no one with us. We're in obviously in another country. We didn't want additional stress problems moving forward. And for me, sitting in a hotel room, yes, it's a 5-star hotel, but looking outside a window with a baby whilst, you're essentially talking to people that don't speak English. So I had to quickly absorb the Latin language, Spanish language, and quickly learn it. So it was pretty broken, pretty shitty, to be honest, my Spanish. So it was really difficult.
And what was it like meeting the person that was going to help you through this process initially? Tell us about those first moments when you met the person that was going to really help you through this process.
It's actually a really foreign process, because you actually meet them through the lawyers. So everything's done obviously above board with lawyers that are involved. And obviously the surrogate person that we chose would always speak through the lawyer and the process until probably about 6 months, till she actually felt comfortable having a conversation with us. Essentially, the lawyer's in the background, and if there was an answer that she wasn't allowed to answer, she'd be looking, and you could tell that the concern was we never saw the stomach. So I thought, we're having a child? Are we having a child? And it wasn't until probably about 7 months till she stood up and said, oh, and by the way, I'm actually just showing. I'm a late boomer. It just popped out. So that was, for me, really, really tough when I met her. And when I met with her face to face, it was even better. It was such a touching feeling. We both cried. We both couldn't communicate with each other, but we both cried because she brought our son to the world. And the hardest part is that when I wanted to thank her at the hospital, we were segregated. She wasn't allowed to come and see us or the child. So she went looking for us. We went looking for her, and we essentially invited her into the room and said, thank you so much for what you've done for us. And we actually allowed her to hold the child. So she was essentially nearly in trouble if it wasn't for us telling them, no, we invited her in. She could have potentially been in a lot of trouble.
Mick, can you tell us about the emotional roller coaster? Because you're telling us there about those feelings, but even the success rate of actually having a child, even if you do go through all these steps?
Yeah, so Gabriel, my son, is our 5th attempt. So for us, the actual journey process is really interesting in the sense of, so they say 99% success rate, and that's 99% success rate of the implementation of the embryo. So, but from there, it drops significantly. So you go to about 30%, and each month it gets smaller and smaller. So essentially, you've got probably about, when the fertilization happens in the first 12 weeks, it's about a 3% success rate from there. So it's a 99% implementation success rate, and that's what they advertise, but it's 3% chance of it actually holding through the pregnancy. And for us, we made it worse because we chose to go with a separate embryo and a separate surrogate. So we made it a little bit complicated. So my son's mum is actually not the surrogate who held the child. So his mother lives in the United States, and she's Portuguese, South African, and we chose to fly her in. So cooking it and downing it down pretty quickly in such a short period of time, we had to learn how to get our surrogate over at the same time as the surrogate's, menstrual cycle, and making sure that came through. So the fresher it is, the better it is. So if you freeze it, the chances of the child, the success rate goes down by another 5%. So you're essentially like 1 to 3% chance of actually having a child through IVF.
Mick, I hope you don't mind. We've got some questions coming through. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Hope you don't mind answering a few of the questions coming through. So James asks, do you still have contact with the birth mother?
No, we don't. And that's not because we have not chosen to. Unfortunately, with surrogacy, the companies don't allow the parent to remain in contact. But we do have their details for our son when he turns 18 and chooses to make contact with her. So we do regularly send photos through to the agency for the mother to see the child to grow up, but we actually don't have contact with.
We have another one
itself.
by Jay. Oh, sorry, cutting out slightly. Jason has a question. Curious why Mick opted for Mexico rather than US or Asia, and would you do it again in Mexico? Why did you pick that country?
Financially, so US is $200,000 for one attempt. We in total, and I'm happy to share this, we spent in excess of $200,000 for 5 attempts. So double the chances. And yes, we do it again. But unfortunately, our surrogate, who we built a trust with, has actually removed herself from that program. So it's about rebuilding that trust and that process. And unfortunately, laws have changed in Mexico. So where my son is born is no longer legal. So every year it goes through a shuffle. So it's about researching and starting all over again. So we would utilize his mum again as well. So he's got that biological link.
Going through everything that you went through, can you tell us what that feeling was inside you when you first held your son?
It was I guess a sense of relief, but a sense of accomplishment. And as you guys can see here, you know, I'd never tried anything. The emotions that we went through, you know, we unfortunately missed his birth because he decided to come 3 weeks early. So we were in the air and landed in the United States when we found out that our surrogate actually had her child. So when we got to him at midnight, it was like holding the bundle of joy, and we just couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe that we're parents. And you know, there's probably lots of parents on here and no parents. There's no manual. Every child is different, and they went, "Here you go, here's your child," and we went, "Oh crap, okay, so we're on our own."
Here we
there was
go.
that sense of fear. I don't know what to do. Here we go. How do I change a nappy? How do I know, is he hungry? You know, and that's so. But it was really exciting. It probably took us about 2 or 3 hours to start getting to know our son, and obviously holding him and taking on that role of, you know, you take your shirt off and that bonding, because we did miss that. So it took Gabriel probably about 7 hours to bond with us, to understand that we were, you know, there.
Hey Mick, $200,000 is obviously a lot of money and a huge cost to go through this process. How did you fund this process? I mean, $200,000, it's not easy to just come up with that amount. How did you get there?
Okay, so it was actually a journey for us, and I was blessed. So one of my
Looks like we're having audio issues again.
Yeah, we might give it a second to see if the audio of Mick's audio catches up.
How cute. Look at that photo. I love the sombrero.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
Okay.
yeah.
So Mick, we've got you again. We lost you for a second there, but if you can go back through to Mark's original question, how were you able to afford having your son?
So it was through a friend of mine that passed away. My siblings are online now. They'll know exactly who I'm talking about. So she was like a second mum to us, and in her passing, she left me a letter saying to me that I need you to fulfill your dream to be a parent. She was never a parent, and she longed to have a child, and she wanted my dream to come true. So, you know, may she rest in peace. And I'm sure she's watching us, you know, now, and is excited to see that we actually have a family.
Wow, that's amazing. Gee, that's a bit of a tearjerker, that one.
Yeah, it's really beautiful,
Hey, Mick.
Mick.
Yeah, it is. I'm trying to. Yeah.
Hey, Mick, can I ask you as well? Obviously, you live out in Western Sydney, so obviously you got your child, and then you moved out there to Western Sydney. How's that been, moving out there with a family and raising your son out there?
To be honest, it's been fantastic. We have not really had any issues living in Western Sydney. So biggest factor we had when we were linking up with people, you know, a lot of people live in the eastern suburbs and have kids, and you know, it's quite normal down there around blended families, etc. So for us, it's been fantastic. We haven't had any issues. My son's going to school next year. You know, we obviously are Catholics, and he's going to a Catholic school, and there was no issues whatsoever. So we were really surprised and really like happy. So we wanted to test it out, and if we were going to have any sort of stigma or any issues raising Gabriel in Western Sydney, we were considering moving into the city, but we haven't had to at this point. So I think society is opening up very quickly around surrogacy and around blended families, and I don't think it's an issue anymore moving forward. So my son always says, you know, oh, I've got my parents, my mum lives in South Africa. He always says, my mum lives in South Africa and my dad is here. So, you know, he's got no issues and he hasn't had any issues. So it's really good.
Mick, final question. For anyone thinking of going through the journey, what would your one piece of advice be?
Be prepared and be prepared emotionally and physically, because it does take a toll on you. And obviously something that I learned through Gabriel's grandmother, she mentioned to me that if we're going to invest this money and have nothing in return, we have to forgive and we have to forget. And we can't hold that against anybody, and it's going to be nobody's fault. So I guess the 5th attempt was our last attempt. And I said, you know what, if this doesn't work, then I'm at peace. It's not meant to be. I'm not meant to be a parent, but never regret. So if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. So please don't, guess reality wise, don't expect it's going to happen the first time. A lot of people think, oh yeah, I'm going to fall pregnant. I'm going to fall pregnant the first time and everything's going to be happy and, happy as Larry. It's not the case. Just be prepared emotionally. And you know what? You have to stop. Financially, you have to stop. As I said, it was very expensive and we were very lucky to have somebody backing us. But if you go against the financial aspect and continue to do it and you know you can't afford to do it, you've lost everything. You're potentially going to lose everything. So my word of advice, enjoy the process and have fun.
Wow, Mick, thank you so much. That was really, really interesting to talk to you as someone who doesn't have kids, but does have a goddaughter now. She's only just one. That was really interesting to hear. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for being so open and honest and willing to share your story with us. We truly feel honored. Thank you, Mick.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
How great was that, Mark?
Wow. Oh, the funding, that's amazing. His friend left the money for him and his partner to have kids. That's amazing. A kid. That's amazing.
A beautiful story. And quite emotional, right? Like talking to someone like Mick also, I've got two beautiful nephews. I've got two beautiful nephews in Wollongong, which I can't see right now. I see every couple of weekends normally, outside of lockdown time. So, it just makes me miss them a bit more.
Are Noah and Zach watching? Do they ever watch? Not yet.
I don't know. I don't think I've got access to Facebook.
Okay, yeah, too young.
Okay, let's go to our next guest, waiting patiently. He's also out in Western Sydney. It's a tough time for small businesses out there, especially for some trades more than others. This time last year, when the whole of Australia went through the lockdowns, some businesses were still in operation. So, for example, you could get your haircut still this time last year, even though we were in lockdown. This time you can't. So to tell us more, we are now joined by Daniel Iorio. Daniel, thanks for your time, mate.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good, thank you, mate. Listen, you're based in Western Sydney. How tough is it for you right now not to be running your small business?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks. It really does. And I suppose you're still running your business, and that's what makes it tougher because we still have a team, we still have bills to pay, we still have overheads, and we still have an image that we need to keep up and keep in communication, because I suppose in the back of your mind, you've always got that fear that, they might forget about you, or they might not choose you to return because you weren't as helpful, or you weren't as, guiding, or you didn't give them the answer that they wanted in this desperate time. So yeah, it is pretty tough, and I think everybody's fighting their own battles. So, I run a tight ship. I've got an amazing team, and we try to keep it as supportive as possible. And my wife is a hairdresser / side business owner with me. So together, backed with an accountant and the right, advisors, I suppose you can make the right choices and help you get through such a tough time.
Hey, Daniel,
how different?
Yep.
How different is it this time round compared to last time?
Look, this time round it's harder because we're closed, and it's funny because, some hairdressers might be watching now and think, oh, I was thinking exactly the same thing. But we chose to close last year because my staff were flipping and nobody knew what we were combating, and we had all these procedures, and before you knew it, we were charging money just to be COVID practitioners almost, rather than hairdressers, and we chose to close. And that was, a financially backed decision to say, this is how long we can do it for, guys. Let's be safe. Let's be calm. And then we chose to go back. So, that feeling of knowing that we were going to be able to turn to work when we wanted to gave us a little more power. This time around, and mind you, should I say, we were all hairdressers were saying, why are we even open? Because we thought we were dangerous. We couldn't social distance, blow dryers would have been blowing germs everywhere. This time around, they've closed us down, and there's 50% of our industry probably saying, oh, why'd you close us down this time? We should be working. And now everybody out there is sort of poising the questions on us. Well, why can't we get our hair cut? And I've got to be honest, you see people walking around at the moment with their haircuts, and I think, that's so wrong. Like, we should be following the rules. And if everyone's going to suffer together, you guys are presenters and you have to look good, but you make do. And, I haven't had a haircut during this time just so I can feel like my customers, because, it is torture. It does suck. And, this time around, knowing that we can't just go back and reopen our doors, it really does suck. Yeah.
Hey, Daniel, I want to ask you, hairdressers are interesting places because they're kind of like borderline therapy. Getting your hair done makes you feel and look good. It's a mental health thing. The conversations that go on in hairdressers are just astounding. I mean, my hairdresser has heard about every breakup, every problem I've had. Tell us a bit about, are you missing that conversation and those customers? I mean, that must be hard.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've got a saying, and I sort of teach my staff that as well. As you build your clientele, our job doesn't essentially be just around a haircut. It becomes, the conversation and the relationship that you build with these people. But the foundation of that comes from a very good haircut on a very consistent basis. So I've had a lot of clients sit in my chair between, 11 and 14 years now. And I hope some of them are watching me tonight. So a nice little shout out to the people that we miss. But, I'm fortunate enough to have a few of their contact details, and we do shoot a text and they shoot us a text. And that's really nice because, it's, we think about them, they think about us, but at the end of the day, it's a transaction primarily. So you don't know where the relationship goes. So they trust you in the chair, but they don't call you a week later to just tell you what happened. We wait 3 weeks to hear what happened. So it's tough because you realize how much those relationships really do mean to you. And I'm seeing it, we're putting up some videos on our Instagram, and we're seeing some other clients comment on my staff's images as well, and they're all saying, we miss you guys, we can't wait to get back. So it's a real community-based feel that we're missing, I suppose.
So I followed Daniel randomly on Instagram, so that's how I found him. And what inspired me to contact Daniel was the fact that he was being so positive in his Instagram stories, even though we are in lockdown and trying to reach out to clients. So Daniel, maybe tell us a bit about what you're doing in the meantime while the shop is closed, because you've done a bit of a refurb, haven't you?
Yeah. So initially the lockdown came at a good time for us because the first week of lockdown was a week before we were scheduled to close. So we were like, oh, fantastic. As always, I bite off way more than I can chew. And I said to Laura, this is great. We've got an extra week to renovate, and I don't have to stress as much, and I don't have to drive everyone up the wall. And so then we've gone and done this renovation, and, I broke everybody to get it all done in a time frame. And then, all I've done is go back and collect products off my shelf to online retail and stare at how beautiful it is. And it's just collecting dust. So, we wanted to change the look and the feel and the theme of the salon. And I suppose in one way, as much as my whole plan has somewhat derailed, I'm really excited because we've built up enough momentum and hype on social media, and we feel as a team, and I feel because, it's my role to be confident and I suppose in one way a little bit cocky, but we have one of the most beautiful salons in our area now, and we've just gone sustainable, which is another huge factor for our salon as well, to sort of tie in with the way that the environment's moving. So I know that when we do return, provided that we get this, online presence correct in this period here, that we can go back just as strong as we were before we left.
And speaking of team, I think you've got more time on your hands now, even more so, because you can't really do something that you were or are quite passionate about, especially in the past. Soccer.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. I got, hopefully my team's watching, the Rams. They wanted a shout out. There's the Rams. Look, I'm no professional by any means, but I started my team with my mates 12 years ago now. There's 18 of us, and we've been together. I don't think we've upgraded our squad in the last 6 years. So they're my best mates. They're my social life outside of my literally 24/7 job. And a week before lockdown, I actually snapped my ACL, which is devastating. I mean, if you knew me personally, I look after myself in the gym. I eat well, I train, I run, I keep fit. And I don't know, I wasn't ready to give it up. And, I've shattered my ACL and I'm doing rehab in a garage. It's very difficult, but thankfully I'm the coach of the team, so I'm never going to lose that.
Daniel, we're seeing a lot of people trying to do their own haircuts at the moment. There's a bit of a debate over whether you use a shaver to clip your beard as well as on the hair. And also
Yeah.
we're seeing mullets return. I don't know, maybe we'll see the beehive return, like a Patsy Stone type too. If you watch AdFab, maybe you don't. But tell me, what are people doing, and are you looking at them on Instagram? Do you have any advice and do and don't do with hair right now?
Look, you can go either way with this. There's some companies out there who are providing home color kits. There's other companies who are like, no, we're professionals, we're scientists, we've studied, don't sell yourself short. You know, there's other people out there, you know, teaching people how to shave the sides of their hair. I put a video up there to maintain the beard. You know, I suppose for us, the best advice I can get is I really do understand how hard it may be in this period. But just try not to make too many mistakes, because it's very hard to fix, and coloring hair and, you know, cuts, it's a scientific process. It's not an easy job. And we have the skills to be able to fix any of that. But I suppose if you're watching this and you want to know what to do with your hair, you can shoot me a message and we can guide you. We're professionals with professional hair care, but we can guide you what you can pick from the aisle. Just always keep in mind that if you're at home, it's better to just let your hair grow and enjoy what it is. And that will save you money when we have to go and get it out of there later.
What about a fade? Can you do a
No.
fade at home?
Impossible. If someone can fade, also send me a message. I would gladly take you on board to work into my salon. If you can fade while you're at home, I would gladly take you on board. It's not easy. You can shave it, but not fade it.
Daniel, tell us how you're using social media right now to connect with your clients.
Look, I'm trying. I'm not very good. This is one of the reels that my wife and I made the other day about a hairy neck. She's been hounding me nonstop to clean up. And I just thought this is a really helpful tutorial for, you know, sisters, wives, girlfriends, whoever out there. You know, I'm a predominantly male hairdresser, quite busy. So I see some dodgy hairlines come in when people try to look after it themselves. So I thought, you know what, if you're going to do it yourself and you want to feel good about it, here's a step-by-step. And my team's been helping as well. I sort of said to my team, look, you know, I'm going to work real hard at our social media because it's my job to look after that. But if we do things as a team, we could be really, really powerful, and we could be really sending the right messages out. So the team have been filming some things as well, and they're just tips, tricks, hacks, how to use our products, whatever we can think of.
I think we've lost Mark's audio, so he may have pressed mute.
Yeah, I didn't hear him there either.
Well, if not, maybe if you give me one tip, right? So I'm really fussy with my hair.
Yep.
I've had the same hairdresser for the past 12 years.
Yep.
I'm not going to let anyone touch my hair. This is what it looks like at times. What's a tip?
It looks like you've got it. If that's what you're going for, it looks like you've got it right. There's no tip. But no, look, honestly, as long as you're washing every 2 to 3 days and you're just taking the time, I think as your hair gets more unruly and more long and out of shape, you just need more time in the morning. So, you know, just add a few extra minutes to your morning routine. It will make a big difference.
And sun-in, do or don't?
Say that again, sorry?
Sun-in. Do you remember sun-in? When I was younger, sun-in was a thing where you spray stuff in your hair and made it go blonde.
Yeah. Look, I think for men you can get away with it 100%. Yeah. And you look like you've already got that sandy type of hair, so I think it'll really work for you.
It's all natural.
He pays for that. It's called frosted tips.
Yeah.
Hey, Daniel, thank you so much. We hope you do all right during business. And you can actually, can I ask you just maybe 1 or 2 more business-related questions just to top it off, right?
Yeah.
How long do you reckon you can survive as a business in lockdown until you really start to be in trouble?
I haven't done the math, but, you know, I have enough there to ensure my team that their job is safe 100%. And look, it's a shame on one way, because if my landlord was a little more helpful, it could be a lot longer. But I know for sure between now and, I don't know, Easter, that they don't have anything to be concerned about. But once again, going back to what I spoke about before, having the right people around you, the right advisors, making the right choices. So yeah, I can definitely provide that job security for them, and I'm very thankful for that. However, you know, I'm not angry with my landlord either, because, you know, he may own where I work, but he also has collateral against that, and he's in business and he needs to make his ends meet. So, you know, it is what it is at the moment. You just have to grind it out. And I feel sorry for the people who aren't in that position. And it doesn't make anybody better or worse. I think everybody makes decisions at the right time. And, you know, had I have known what I know now, would I have spent $40,000 on a renovation? Probably not. But thankfully, we were in a financial position to do so and still have the confidence to come back soon enough.
That's amazing. Daniel, thank you so much. Good luck with the business.
Thank you, fellas.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Daniel.
See you, Daniel. Thank
you.
you. Oh, that was great.
Okay, I still don't know how to cut my own hair, but I'm going to look at those tutorials online and let's see. I don't know. I don't think I could do my own hair.
Well, speaking of trades, though, just to wrap up, Mark, you've turned into a bit of a tradesman over the past few days, because you've been doing this. What are you doing?
Okay, so I have, like many people, bought a lot of clothes during lockdown, and I decided my chest of drawers was too small, so I bought a new one, and it took me a day and a half to construct that. And I did it. It's actually perfect. I followed the instructions for once in my life. The only problem is that one of the drawers gets stuck when you open it, and it takes a good minute or so to get it back in. So that's the only problem. And yeah, well, construction has resumed in New South Wales, so I thought I'd try that out a bit. My boxing career's ended. It was short-lived because my trainer can't get it here. I did. I was learning to box. I had one session. I even bought gloves that, you know, I'm just going to keep, I guess. But so yeah, that was what I did. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Well, that's it for the show. They were some really great stories. We feel quite privileged to have those guests come on the show. If you or someone you know have an inspiring story to tell, please get in touch. You can send us an email at ricardo&reddie@gmail.com, or just send us a message right here on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you.
Exactly. And we also want to hear from, you know, people that are in Melbourne or in Queensland. We know those cities, I should say state cities, are in lockdown too. So any sort of inspiring ideas, get in touch with us, because it's always good to have a bit of a chat.
Yeah, next week, I do think we've got someone from Melbourne. He used lockdown last time, the very long lockdown in Melbourne, to build, I don't want to give it away, to build his hobby during lockdown, and it's absolutely taken off. He used Instagram as a tool, and now as a result, he's been able to publish a book out of it. So he used lockdown and was creative, and something's come out of it.
So what are we going to get out of this show? Everyone's doing these amazing things in lockdown, and they're getting going viral, releasing albums. You know, we need to.
Mark, we're journos. We like telling stories.
Exactly. We've got it all. Everything.
See everyone. See you next time.
Thank you.